DDB.
Playing baseball.
She's not here anymore. Okay, all right, bye.
It's nice to do it when you don't have a significant other, you don't have a house. You know.
Time? The clock says 27. Good evening. Call to order. The time per the big screen is 5:30. Welcome to the January 11th, 2023 Downtown Development Board meeting. I ask everybody to silence their phones.
I just did, bro.
And cease private conversations. Remind all the members to lean forward and speak clearly. And we're going to start with introductions to my left of the board members and ex officios.
Have Emrani.
Chiara Zaniboni.
Keenan Kinsel.
Ray Casano.
Jerry Nabitsky.
Festus Pobeni.
Lena Teixeira.
Mark Bunker.
Thank you. Next up is the minutes of the previous meetings. For the December 7th, 2022 meeting. Like to request any corrections? None? No? A motion?
I move that we approve the December 7th minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. I heard Mr. Casano made a motion and Mr. Corbini made the second. The board, any discussion from the board?
No, it was simple.
All good? Then we call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Next up, citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda.
Hello, I'm Jasper Klein. I own Way to Go Rides out in Clearwater Beach.
Point of order, you were to read the rules first.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Let me
Yep.
just read the rules. Have you filled out the card?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. So the comments will be limited to matters within the DDB district and matters the DDB can act upon. And comments on items on the agenda will be held until the agenda item is called, which I think we're following. As you've already done, please identify yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Cool. Thank you. So I'm here today to introduce myself to some of you and reintroduce myself to some of you. I was here back in February of 2020. At the time, my company was called Florida Free Rides. We operate out in Clearwater Beach. In the last 6 months, we've rebranded now to Way to Go Rides. Essentially what we do is we're a hybrid transportation marketing company. So we have a transportation service on Clearwater Beach where on demand 7 days a week people call us up, we give them a ride anywhere on Clearwater Beach, we charge them a flat rate of $10. We also operate now, since we're not free anymore. When we were free, we just did it locally on the beach and the drivers work for tips, but since we've rebranded now, we go anywhere off of Clearwater Beach. So we're a full service transportation company. One of our biggest things that we do now is airport transportation, transportation to concerts, sporting events, pretty much anything that's going on. So I'm excited about having a concert venue down here in downtown Clearwater coming, because that's another place we can start bringing people. But since all this is happening, I'm working with Howard and Ann on doing a proposal, which is essentially a marketing proposal of, since we have all these different customers, we're picking them up from the airport, we're the first point of contact before they come to the area. You've probably seen my vehicles. They're wrapped with different advertisements. There's 4 Shepherd's vehicles. Palm Pavilion has a vehicle. They're out everywhere. Tropics Boat Tours, the Beachcomber, Krabby's. If you've been on Clearwater Beach, you've probably seen one of my vehicles go by. So essentially what I'm trying to bring is my service to downtown Clearwater. We have all these tourists who are on the beach all the time who use our service, and they're always asking us, where to go, what to do. They come to Clearwater Beach for the first day or two. They see the beach, they see the pool, they get sunburned, they want to see what else the area has to offer. So I'm trying to roll that into downtown Clearwater, make this kind of that hotspot destination. So I'm working on a proposal not only for the transportation side, but really for the marketing side of what we do to get downtown Clearwater, the district, everything that's happening down here in front of all of our customers and guests. We do about 150,000 people a year. And we've had a lot of, especially now going to the airports and picking up, I have the permits to pick up at both Tampa and St. Pete Clearwater airports. Those people, when we pick them up and we have that ride to the beach and they're staying, my drivers are trained to answer all those questions on what to do, set them up with an itinerary for their trip. Every person, every group that lands from the airport, they get a marketing envelope from all of our partners. It has coupons, discounts, menus, information handed right to them. And since we have that credibility of the local service, the local people, they trust us on where we send them and stuff. So basically, I'm working on a proposal that I'll present at the next meeting that kind of outlines the different marketing things we can do, how we can bring more people to down here.
Thank you. Congratulations on all your success.
I appreciate it. Well, I was here in February 2020, like I said, and that ended up being bad timing with what happened right after that, working on the same kind of thing. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting that ball rolling.
See you next month.
Yep.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coming. Any other citizens to be heard? Okay, number 4, new business. Ms. Ann Lopez.
Good evening, Ann Lopez, CRA Program Specialist. The first item that I have for you is the swearing in of our newly elected members to the Downtown Development Board. So Keenan Kinsel, Kiara Zanboni, Shahab and Rami, if you could stand, please. And I ask that you raise your right hand. You say your name where I say mine. I, Ann Lopez,
I, Keenan Kinsel,
I, Chiara Zaniboni,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
and the charter and laws
and the charter and laws
of the city of Clearwater,
of the city of Clearwater,
and the bylaws
and the bylaws
of the city of Clearwater Downtown Development Board,
of the city of Clearwater Downtown Development Board,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the charter and laws
under the charter and laws
of the city of Clearwater,
of the city of Clearwater,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform the duties of member
perform the duties of member
of the board on which I am now about to enter.
on the board of which I am now about to enter.
Great, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Excellent. 4.2, Ann.
The next item on your agenda is to request appointment of the officers to the Downtown Development Board for 2023. Per your bylaws, the officers of the Downtown Development Board should consist of a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer, each of whom shall be elected by the DDB at a regular meeting in January. So we will first start with the chair. If there would be anybody who would like to volunteer or be for that, or nominate for that seat.
I'd like to nominate Keenan since he's sitting there right now. He's acting, and also because he's acted in part for Paris from Germany. So.
That sounds great to me.
That sounds good.
He looks good there.
Yeah?
Okay, fine. Any other nominations? Discussion? I'd like to discuss. You're all out of order. Okay. Fine with me. The next, I guess, is it the formal
We
procedure?
still have
where
to vote.
If you only have one nominee, you do not have to have an election.
So there it is.
You're in.
Yep.
So thank you very much, I think.
The next seat we're looking for is vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Shahab Emrani.
One at a time, please.
Or,
Yes, sir.
I raised my hand.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to nominate Shahab Emrani as vice chair.
thank you very much. And actually, kidding aside, I would like to nominate Ms. Jamo because she spends quite a bit of time working within the city, has good relations and communication lines with different departments.
It's actually a good idea.
Any other nominations? Board discussions?
Yes, I'd like to discuss that Festus recommends Ms. Jamo to be the vice chair.
I think that's already been recommended by you, so.
Any other discussions? So in this case, we have two.
You can ask your nominee who nominated somebody else if he wants to withdraw from nomination. Shahab, do you want the position?
Actually, no, and the reason for that is it's a pleasure to do that. I am more away often that it will take away from my ability to serve. Otherwise, I would have gladly do that.
Is that a withdrawal?
Yes, so I withdraw.
We'll accept.
Thank you.
So that, do we arm wrestle now, or?
You only have one name.
Oh, well, I thought there might be more. So
Okay. She's in.
she's in. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very kind.
So when you're not here, she sits there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Your next position is for secretary.
I nominate Terry Nowitzki as secretary.
That's a great idea.
That's a great
Isn't it a good
idea.
idea?
I think that's a nomination and a second. Any other nominees?
It's almost quorum.
Yes, exactly.
I accept.
It's unanimous, apparently.
All right.
I heard her whisper she accepts.
That's right. Thank you.
Your last position is treasurer.
Maybe you could elaborate on that position. It seems like the most work.
So according to your bylaws, the treasurer, in addition to the duties outlined in these bylaws, and unless otherwise delegated, the treasurer shall have custody of all DDB funds and financial records. The treasurer is the one person on the board, aside from the chair, that I personally work closest with. We review budgets. You also help with financials on a monthly basis.
And the treasurer has in the past, and according to our contract with our interlocal agreement, delegated the actual possession and preparation to CRA staff.
Meaning,
You still have to be part of the discussion, you're responsible to make sure it gets done.
Very little.
excellent. Any nominations?
I nominate Shahab because he knows money.
Actually, back to not hear that often. That's the.
It's not an often job.
Yeah.
It is?
I nominate myself, because I did that previously, and I think we have great.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
Can he nominate himself?
He
Absolutely.
can.
He's a member of the board.
I second it.
I thought it.
Apparently, oh wait, you withdrew, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Schaub withdrew. Mr. Festus, you are reinstated, I guess. Any other positions?
That's it. The only thing I'll ask is that the chair and the treasurer, after the meeting's over, if you can just stay, I do need to get some signatures from you. It'll be very quick.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, that was fun. Moving on, 4.3, the proposed fiscal year 2023/2025 goes into the next year. The DDB work plan, Mr. Smith.
Good afternoon, Howard Smith, Business Assistant Administrator for the CRA. So the purpose of this item is to review the DDB's two-year work plan that will guide DDB decisions and funding for the next 2 years with the annual review. So before I start with the presentation, I would like to bring you all back to November 29th. We met here in the library on the second floor, and we walked through and had a discussion. And in our discussion, we talked to what could be new for DDB services and programming, as well as discussing what you all could do different as a board to be more innovative and take a more aggressive approach in terms of revitalizing downtown based off of your mission statement, as well as basically how to move forward. So with the work plan, as I said before, not only for your staff, but also for applicants that would be seeking to do events in downtown or bring programs to downtown, this will guide the decisions. So the amount of funding that they can get, what they can do, how DDB services can be provided, the work plan essentially does that. So part of our conversation was having a discussion, and prior to getting into the work plan, the discussion was really to talk about some of the specifics. So for today, for this presentation, I want to walk through our discussion, and then I'll go through and review the work plan, but also the strategy, how we will meet those work plan services over the next 2 years. And again, we will have an annual review, so as a new board member comes on board, if we need to update or make changes to the plan, then we could do that at that time, okay? So a couple things I'll touch on from our discussion is approving update to the DDB's mission as well as the vision. Also approve the DDB style guide and approve DDB services, and then we'll get into doing the work plan and the strategy. So with that, for this process that we'll take today, I will review the information. We can have a discussion or a recap just to make sure everybody is versed in everything that we will be showing today. And then on some of these, I'm going to have to ask you to actually make a motion and then approve it, okay? So for this first one, based off our discussion, we talked over updating the DDB mission, and the mission is really the overarching thing that you all do. It's an elevator speech. So when somebody says, what is the DDB? What is it that they do? That really speaks to their mission, but as well as what was previous your mission, I felt like, and also discussion with the CRA team, that could be more of your vision statement, because the vision statement is really the nuts and bolts. How do you actually apply what you say your mission is to be able to make it happen? So with that, I would like you all to be able to make a motion to approve the DDB mission statement, which would be to build and strengthen a downtown Clearwater community that is inviting and flourishing for all. And then the vision statement, again, for how you will go through to complete that objective is to have a flourishing and prospering downtown with rising property values, a successful, attractive, and interesting mix of cultural, restaurants, retail, and residential and office tenants that attracts and serve visitors from local and surrounding areas, as well as travelers from around the world. So that would be your mission statement, your vision statement. So any questions before we move forward?
Excellent.
Okay.
Are we making a motion on this item?
Yes.
Then I think we need, there's no board questions, then we need to open it for citizens' comments. Is there any comments from the citizens? Not today. Okay, good. So I'd like to receive a motion to approve the mission statement and vision statement.
Motion to approve the mission statement and vision statement.
Motion by Caitlin. Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Casano. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then we will update this on the DDB website, this on the city webpage. The next one, and this is going to be part 1 and part 2, is to approve a DDB style guide. So when we talked through our discussion before, we said we need to update the style guide, but also update the communication that goes out that represents the DDB for any grant funder, because part of their grant request, they are required to use DDB marketing and also cite the DDB as a sponsor or a funder of their event. So having a vector version, a JPEG, a PNG, and also a GIF to be able to give to any applicant that receives from the Bureau becomes essential, as well as your staff, as we do emails on your behalf or do recommendation letters that can go to council or anything that goes outward to any other stakeholders. We need to make sure that we have the best representation of the DDB. So updating and having a style guide lends us the ability to be able to do that.
Any questions from the board?
We already discussed it.
I have one. This is not the final version, if I recall correctly.
No, I just need you all to be able to approve us, and once we get into the next one, to be able to approve having a style guide. We will do the research to bring on a company to figure out what that cost would be, what it would look like, and then we will present that to you all.
Excellent. Does this require a motion as well? Okay, any citizen comments? No? Yes,
You
please.
can note that we have no citizens in the room and skip that unless somebody comes in.
Okay, I would like to note, I don't see, well, there is one citizen.
There is, okay, sorry.
He's
He's
tuned
got
in to
headphones on, so he can't hear it.
Listen to music.
Anyway, do I have a motion regarding the DDB style guide?
I move we approve the DDB style guide.
Thank you, Ray. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Terry.
You're not actually approving the guide, you're approving them developing the guide.
Yeah, for it to be updated.
I move
Yes.
that I approve they develop the guide.
And a second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the update version of the style guide.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Also came out of discussion, when we talked about revitalizing downtown and also looking at some of the key stakeholders, it was brought up that you all would like to be able to survey the stakeholders as well as the businesses in downtown. So for this, we would want to traditionally do like a RFP, but it's my thought we would do like a letter of interest. And one of the things we would want to do a combination of is have a marketing company be able to come in and blend the two for the style guide, as well as do a marketing program for the DDB that could complete this interest survey. So the first step, if you all want to move forward and you want to ask questions of the property owners in the business and also the stakeholders that's in downtown, how they feel, what they feel about downtown, what could be some things that could be done for retention, what type of program services they would like to have, what does success for a business owner look like, the first step in that process to be able to get that marketing company. So for this, I'm asking if you all would be able to, if you still want to approve having a survey of the property owners in downtown, and the answer was yes. So we're still on board with that.
Yes.
Next, the board wanted to develop a marketing campaign for downtown. Like I said before, one of the things that we want to do is do the letter of interest. And one thing I want to definitely make sure that I touch on, typically when you do a RFP, and when you think about your entire downtown area, and you have it here on the map, when you do an RFP, that's a request for a proposal, and you spend a lot of your time putting in all the specifics. So I kind of think about it in a different way, somewhat of a reverse, is doing a letter of interest. Let different companies come to us. Let them tell us what they think, some of the ideas that they have in terms of marketing downtown, and the businesses that's in your footprint, what would that look like? So then that way could be a potential shared vision in terms of what a different outside source could come in and say, here's how we think we can market all the businesses and the properties and support the businesses in the DDB district, versus it just being one side for us telling them what we want, and then it could be like hit or miss. So my thought would be to do a letter of interest, and in doing that, we can also blend into the DDB logo and have them update that for marketing. So that way, hopefully the logo and doing the marketing downtown, they can lend themselves to being one item. If not, then it could be broken out, but hopefully we can find a marketing company to be able to do both. So if that is the case, we're still on track for you all to have a marketing company to be able to promote all the businesses in the DDB district area, as well as conduct the survey of the property and business owners. Yes?
Sounds good.
All right, so we're going to keep it moving. All right. So the next thing, I had an opportunity to reach out and speak with pretty much all the board members, minus Terry. One of the things when we had our discussion, and I wanted to circle back around to make sure that we were absolutely clear when it came to funding and reoccurring for funding events, that I was on the same page as your staff so I can communicate exactly what your wishes and your guidance were. So from the discussion, I asked the question, does the board want to continuously fund reoccurring events? So just a quick recap, for last year there was 14 events that you all funded as a board, and 7 of those were repeat events. With that, a couple things we talked to on our individual one-on-ones up until this point is the amount of funding that had been provided to those applicants. So for reoccurring events, Typically, when they came back for an ax, the ax either doubled in amount from the previous time that it was funded, and in some cases, it even tripled. And so on that note, that seems to be the continual pattern in terms of reoccurring events, continuing for their funding to be able to escalate, as well as making sure, from a fiduciary standpoint, that you all have enough money to be able to fund new and unique ideas, as well as new applicants that come in that may ask for support for programming or for events. So on that note, you all said you did not want to continually fund recurring events. So the thought, based off our communication, that you would only fund events to take place twice. And the words that was used was a starter or a Kickstarter. So I want to make sure that we're still on track with that piece before I move on. So.
I'd like to, Elise, if you don't mind, just giving a little backstory on the record on this, how this board, Elise has been with the board probably longer than all of us combined, and that we historically have been a Kickstarter, so maybe you could give a little bit more information on how we came to this in our work session, which wasn't really publicized on television, right?
Well, historically, when we gave grants, our idea was we would help them get off the ground, a Kickstarter grant. Now, there were some events that we funded because they were tradition, for instance. I don't know whether by reoccurring you mean we're not going to do it more than once a year, or more than twice a year, or once you've had your 2, you're done. That's a big question, because we did events that worked. We did continue to fund them year after year, but we didn't increase the funding. In fact, we increased the requirements. If they wanted to come back again, they had to show us they had more third-party support, that there are other people that believed in them, not just us, that they were successful previously, and that they were genuinely helping with the revitalization part of our mission. We didn't continuously, we always saved a big part of the budget for something new, something that required a chance. Even then, we expected, though, that they had some skin in the game. And I'm not talking volunteers. Everybody's got volunteers. They've got to have some of their own funding, and they had to have, and although it wasn't a requirement, we definitely had a preference for those who were able to find a third party that believed in them, too. Okay? But it was we were never the major funder unless it was a Kickstarter.
Good. Yeah, that helps so that we know where this came from, because we had that half day of discussion around this. A lot of it was around this point, so thank you.
Quick question, sorry. So just to clarify, is it recurring events, or is it events by the same group? So can Citizen A have 3 different events in 1 year, or is it do they have the same event?
Well, from my communication and from you all, and again, just to get guidance, it was refunding the same event more than twice. So as an example, I'm going to use the HOC. HOC did 2 events with us this year. They both were different. So if they wanted to do the Day of the Dead and they wanted to do the Day of the Dead and then Dinner with Santa, they do that year 1 now. Then they come back next year, that would be year 2. And then they couldn't come back year 3 for the same event. They could come back with something else, but it couldn't be the Day of the Dead and it couldn't be Dinner with Santa. And that was the guidance and discussion that I've had with each one of you individually. So that's going back to it's only funding the same event, not funding the same event twice. It can be the same organization, be the same person, just not the same event. So are we still on?
Yes.
Clarification.
Yes.
If I may, the discussions we had, the idea wasn't that we're going to encourage this group to come up with whole new thing again. Idea was that we will fund for a project they're doing once or twice and tell them at the beginning, this is to help you get going. And so we put our attention towards some other group. I don't think the idea, at least the discussion, that tell that group that, okay, well, change your venue or change the name of it and then come to us for a funding. The whole purpose is to get as many different groups to come to us so we can help them get started once or twice, so that hopefully that will give them a start and they get going. And that was my understanding with the hours of discussions that we had.
Mine too.
And with individually too, so
Yeah.
that's.
So it's not for the name of the event, but it's the group.
Correct.
Am
Yes.
I allowed to ask a question?
Yeah, you just can't vote.
I do enough voting. I just want to be clear. Would there be any exceptions? Because I'm trying to look back historically as well, and there has been very successful big events where the DDB was repeatedly a great sponsor, and I'm hoping that there are exceptions.
There are some exceptions in the, because we're going to come back to this later, right, with the
Yes.
policy. So, yeah, there will always be the exception with some events that we've been doing for a long time. But what's occurred is, in the last few years, the asks have grown substantially to the point where, pretty soon we would just need one meeting a year and write our funding out to one event or two events, and we'd be done. So our budget is quite small, so the idea is, in this big scheme of things, and there are organizations that are going to be moving from downtown more to the park more frequently. So what we need to do is be flexible to help get more activities, more kickstart, but obviously, yes, if it's something that's an extraordinary situation or vital to the city's history and whatnot, that would be considered for sure.
I think it's less flexible, and I'd be interested to see what would be the procedure for those very events to apply a third time and a fourth.
Well, it would be.
How would they go about it if it's clearly written to and you're out?
Well, it's two things. So one, if a person came in and let's say they come in for the same event and it's been funded twice, whether that's a year or 2 years, whatever the case may be, then we would provide them the guidance and say that, hey, the DDB has funded this event twice by policy, which we would touch on before we're done today to review. And then on that note, they have an option where they could come in from the board and present their information on their citizens to be heard. And at that time, if you all as a board decide, hey, listen, we want to hear more about this or we want to consider this for funding, then on that note, you guys would give us that direction, and then we would bring that applicant forward to you to present their information and then be able to vote. The work plan is going to decide the decision for funding for what comes in front of you. If something does not align with your work plan, then we would not bring that applicant in front of you because their interests and whatever it is that they want to do, their programming or services, do not meet the requirements of the work plan. So to answer your question, that's how that would be. And anybody can come and be heard in any DDB meeting under citizens to be heard to provide information to the board, and then you all can direct us, hey, Howard, and get more information. We'd like to hear more about that. And at that time, we would execute that directive.
Their option is to go solo, to bypass the whole CRA process and go solo. Citizens
Okay.
to be heard and plead their case.
Yes.
Just want to
Caitlin?
clarify that.
So, which is one procedure, I would pose that another option we could have is instead of it being a flat-out rule, it's two and you're done. It's that there's a preference or a prioritization of events that have not been funded once or twice before. And then the recommendation from the CRA in presenting it may be, this has been done twice before, there's no reason for additional folks not to have skin in the game. So our recommendation to you is that it not be funded. But I would consider having it be a preference or a prioritization rather than a flat-out rule, and then people are seeking exceptions. To me, that would allow a little bit more flexibility. Personally, that would be my suggestion. It's the same thing, just not a rule, it's just a preference.
It's more soft.
Elise?
Okay, one, you really can't bind future boards. Okay, so this policy really would have to be approved year after year, or, you know, so you've got that going, but we need something in place now. And I think even if you don't want to, we're not going to do this every year, I think you should have limits on what you do within your year, because quite frankly, y'all have hit your budget pretty hard already. And if you keep funding at the rate you're funding now, you probably can go home in a couple months, but we have other work to do. But if we were only doing events, you'd be done. So part of this is to make sure that you have funding available for the new and creative. I think it's a good idea to have that as a recommendation. And I think we need to look at, when you look at the overall policy that they're recommending, and what you may want to do is put this off until we get to the actual policy, so that they have the full picture. Then you'll have more.
Let's do that. We'll move forward. Unless anyone else, did you have?
To clarify for you, it was that this last year, we all of a sudden ended up having a whole lot of extra budget because of COVID, not much was happening. So we got excited and we pretty much funded almost everyone who came to us.
Everyone that came in from the
Literally,
board received
100%.
funding.
And heck, I remember a couple of them, I personally voted, hey, let's give them a little bit more because I think we'll get them going. And it's like overeating, and sometimes you're eating so much you're eating tomorrow's breakfast and lunch. We've already gone into this year's budget, some of the stuff that came from the city that we want to help, so we dipped into this year's budget, so we're going, we need to shore in and take a look, what are we spending, and how are we going to fund new guys where the previous ones are coming and asking for double the last time, and another one come in asking 3 times the first time we funded them. So that's, this precipitated to have a discussion that how do we manage this a little better.
And we do need new blood for the downtown. We need new operations.
You need that, but also you need the capital to be able to support them.
Of course.
So keeping those two things in mind. So following the lead's guide, I'm going to hold off on this one because we do have the actual funding policy in place. So when I bring that up, we can tweak and make changes to that. But I want to be very clear that we do need to have a updated funding policy in place with the governance, because we do have grant requesters that we will bring in front of you next month. So whatever we decide tonight, this will go into effect tonight for us to move forward. And like Elise said, we will review this every year. And if we need to make changes, we'll make changes, because we won't hold this board, especially with new members, to the rules that may come up next year. So there is that flexibility to be able to do that.
Perfect.
Right.
So the next thing on our discussion, we talked about establishing a business recognition award. You all as a board said that you wanted to do this. You wanted to look at businesses in the DDB district and be able to recognize those businesses. And these were just some examples that was brought out in terms of longevity, contributions to the community, excellence in services, resource partners with local businesses, and the various type of businesses that you all have in your district area are schools, restaurants, service industry, tech companies, and business offices. So if you want to still move in that direction, and once we get to our strategy, I will ask that we appoint somebody to work with us to develop what the recognition would actually look like, recognition award, because it's not so much about who you want to award, but who you might exclude based off the criteria. And we want to make sure that we have a good consensus of what the award will look like and developing the criteria. So once we get to our strategy, I will ask you guys to appoint somebody if this is something you're saying that you would still like to take on as a board for a recognition award. So would you all still like to do that?
Yes. And I would add that we put the onus of responsibility on the people downtown to recommend, so that we're not looked upon as we're, eliminating someone on purpose. So they can be nominated, in other words, by anybody.
Well, once we get to this strategy and we talk through that, then we could appoint somebody, and then those could be some of the things that we would bring back to you once that is outlined. But you're saying you want to do it, so great. So the next piece of this is I'm going to go back a little bit. And I want to say that I believe that it was in October, either October or November's board meeting, we brought Chris Cook in. He is the new program manager for the City Parks and Recreation Department. He came and he provided a presentation for his new role of being the manager for all of downtown. He will be coming back in either March or April and providing an update for Imagine Park. But part of his communication when he came to you all as a board, he said that the city was actually going to activate the new Imagine Park, if that name continues to hold true once the park comes open in July. So with that, when we had our discussion, you all as a board, the board actually said that you did not want to consider funding requests that took place in the Imagine Park. And I just want to be clear, and I'm going to bring up, and this is a picture of Imagine Park. So this is the amphitheater. This is being programmed and serviced and supported by
Ruth Eckert.
Ruth Eckert. So all the programming that happens in the amphitheater, Ruth Eckert will take care of this. But outside of that, we have green space, and we also have the entrance into the park. So for me, as your staff, as well as for the rest of us, I'm asking a question. If you all do not want to fund events that take place in the park, are we just talking about the amphitheater? Are we talking about the green space or something that would be at the entrance of the park? Because we need to be very clear when we communicate with potential applicants to say, hey, I have an event that's taking place in the park, but potentially I could have stuff in Station Square, have stuff at the 400 block, have stuff at the 300 block for Osceola that could either feed into it as a pre-event or a post-event, but it all could be tied together as one. So if that is the case, I would tell them if you all don't want to fund anything that takes place in and around the park, then they would have to break out that request. So it would be either at the 300 block, 400 block, or in Station Square for a pre or post event. So do you all still have the consensus, and we can talk through it, that you all do not want to fund anything that take place in the green space for the park as well as for the amphitheater? Or do you want to fund stuff that take place in the green space, just not in the amphitheater? So,
Board thoughts, anyone?
Yes, I think the discussion was centered around if there is an event that directly contributes and affects downtown, we definitely will support it. If it's basically geared for the park or the amphitheater and has nothing to do with downtown, those are the ones that why fund it, because it doesn't have any kind of a venue or spillover for downtown as a recognition or work towards that route. That was my understanding when we had that meeting.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
I agree.
I'll just reiterate, I'm of the opinion that if we look at every grant request and we ask questions, sometimes harder, sometimes easier questions. And so that could be something where if there's an event where there's a green space component as well as a downtown component, like a Station Square component, we could inquire, how are you going to activate the downtown in addition to the green space as part of our discussion and determine whether to fund it. But I'm of the opinion if we determine that there is going to be a benefit to downtown, even if it's located in the green space, that we, based upon whatever the financial situation at that time, should, and I would probably vote in favor of it.
I think that was agreed. I think what he's asking is that should we screen those people out for us not to see?
well, it's not so much for you not to see them, but again, if there was an event taking place in the green space, and it did have some component to downtown, we would bring that request forward based off of your guidance. But in that request, are you also going to fund what happens on the streets, as an example, and also what happens in the park, if it's a pre-event or a post-event, or if nothing happens in terms of having an impact, and let's just say it's at the entrance, but it doesn't get tied into the 400 block, it doesn't get tied in terms of flowing people to and from the businesses, then would you still want to fund that? because I know that potentially we will have a request that will come in front of you that may be Gestation Square Park as a pre-event or taking place maybe the weekend or before, but the primary focus is going to be the amphitheater and what happens there. And then when it comes together, it's all one application, it's all one budget. So with that, do we need to break it out and say, hey, we can do a separate budget to be able to show what's funding and what's not happening in the amphitheater to be funded, as well as what's going to happen in the green space? Because, again, we need to be clear in terms of how we communicate with the future applicants.
Elise?
Can it be communicated that we will consider funding those portions that do occur or affect downtown? I mean, in their overall budget, they can show that if they're financially responsible.
It can be shown in the budget, it also can be
So
shown
it
in the
could be
narrative.
that, we will fund part of that pre-event that's in downtown, or we will fund the part that's, affects, you're showing us how it affects downtown. Tell us what you're looking for funding on that part. Is that what you guys are talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah, tell us what part affects downtown and what that cost is in your overall budget, and what part of it you're looking for us to cover. Is that?
The public get attracted by the event on the amphitheater, right?
Say it
From
again.
the publics get attracted
By the
from-
park, yeah.
by the event that is being hosted by the Rutger Hall, right? So the public is already being attracted during
Correct.
the event. So I don't understand what we need to fund.
Well, in most cases, if I can add to your comment, typically, and before it was imagined Clearwater, when it was Coachman Park, events happened in park, and for what I understand, they were pretty much self-contained. So when the events happened in park, it didn't always flow back to the businesses on Cleveland Street, whether it was before the event happened or after the event happened. And if there are food trucks, if there's going to be a large event that happens in the park and there are food trucks, there's drinks and stuff, what would entice somebody after the event is over to go to Cleveland Street, to go to Downtown Pizza, or to go to Clear Sky? So if I'm understanding what you're saying is that you would be interested in hearing funding requests as long as the applicant can show that there is some type of impact or some connectivity to the downtown businesses.
And maybe they'll do that because we'll fund them if they move part of it.
So, but in funding, in bringing that request forward to you all, and for funding, if they do show that there's going to be a direct impact or some connectivity, whether that could be partner with businesses, so anybody that comes to the event before or after might be able to get a discount, if you will, 10% to any of the merchants that they connect with. And we actually ask any applicant to do that anyway. But if they did that, then would you still want to fund the event that happens just in the green space or happens in amphitheater? And I just want to be clear again, because at the end of the day, I do not or would not want to bring an applicant up in front of you and then for you all not to be able to support them, even if it's a 50-50, as we communicate that you all as a board can decide to fund all, none, or part of the event. But at the end of the day, I do want to bring people up in front of you that have followed guidelines so that their requests can be successful.
I'd like to say something. The park has historically been, and is still in our footprint. It's
Yes.
not, so technically, they're part of the DDB. And if you look back, I think Elise and I had this discussion recently, 40 or 50 years now of the DDB's existence, say $10 million roughly has been funded for, a good chunk of that, if not half, has gone to fund events in the park over the last 4 or 5 decades. So the DDB has been a very big proponent of doing things in the park. It's just now there's a change. It's a $100 million park. The city's invested an enormous amount of money. The council's doing a fantastic job of promoting it. We have Ruth Eckerd Hall. The park, my understanding, is going to be also budgeting money for, and they have a large budget as well. So we may just not be as needed as we were once upon a time. So and our vision statement is more about downtown, not the park, is what we just tightened up a little bit. So I think the answer is yes, but we do want to encourage dramatically that there has to be a tie-in to downtown, because
Right.
the park's going to be on fire with or without us here very soon. And
Right.
so we want to bring more of the money that we're funding in activities eastward versus just
grow
funding
downtown.
to grow downtown.
Because
So
the park's gonna
however that
already
language
grown.
plays out.
So any applicant can come forward if they have an event that's going to take place in the green space or in the amphitheater, as long as there's an impact or connectivity to downtown and the businesses in downtown, or the downtown footprint for 3, 4, 5, 600, 700 block.
Yeah.
Yes, Council.
To add to what you're saying, as a former business owner on Cleveland Street, this park is going to be very different than the one before. The one before didn't have amenities, so the events were usually 1 to 2 days, festivals, enclosed with the fencing, and you couldn't go in and out. You went in, you stayed there for all those hours, and then you left. And there was already food and other services provided in there. So it served as a funnel, and people would just walk past the businesses early during the day and come back late at night, and they've already spent their time, their energy, and their funds. This park is going to be different. So I feel that if there's anything going on in the park, this will have an impact in downtown because there's not going to be food trucks. There's not going to be a fence enclosing all these thousands of people for 8 hours. So I think you're going to have a lot of opportunities to support in some way events that will add or will benefit downtown because it is a different park than it was before.
So there'll be no food trucks at all for the events in the park?
It's not going to be designed like it was before. Before it was just open space that people would use for a day to 3, depending on what festival. But because of the entrance, you got a bracelet, you went in, and you just couldn't go in and out. So because of that, food and drink was provided. And it included the whole park. This is going to be programmed in many ways simultaneously, depending on the areas of the park. So I think it's going to offer you flexibility.
It's perfect, because that then plays right into what we were just discussing, that we want to tie the downtown to the park.
I'm
That's
sure there might be
fantastic.
some events that'll have food trucks and whatever, but it won't be every event, basically.
It could be large, small, or medium-scale type events that
It's
take
exciting.
part. And because there's various areas in the park that can be activated, you could have something maybe going on in this space that has no impact here, and there is a entrance, kind of like curve area that could have food trucks or vendor tables and stuff set up, and there may be some ways if we approach applicants and talk to them where the downtown businesses, if they want to partner, they may be able to bring their services or their food to their event and have it actually be in the impacted area for the park.
Well, on top of that, as the parking gets figured out and the flow comes right down Cleveland Street, there could be buskers and other things that tie right into the whole traffic pattern. Most people are going to come down Cleveland, not Drew or outside, so I think it's good the language you're proposing.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to get into the work plan. So for the work plan, let's shift it. For the work plan categories, they stayed the same as far as marketing, business assistance, and policy and project work. So with that, I want to bring up our work plan and the strategy. So from the work plan, what you all adopted under marketing, you want to increase awareness of downtown as a fun destination for Clearwater residents, employees, and visitors. So that's the goal. The strategy that we take is how we're going to apply that, how we're going to apply the work to be able to complete that goal so that it is a success. So just as a precursor, anywhere where you see a dollar amount, we can talk to that because I'm going to need your direction to potentially talk about what amount that we want to do for funding to be able to meet that particular objective. Okay? So under strategy 1, fund a variety of special events throughout the DDB district. This was a carryover event. With that, the strategy that we take to be able to fund events is to be able to have a grant, grant applications. One thing that would be new this year versus last year, that we want to still focus on having diverse grant requests. And to be able to make that happen, that's going to be a process by the CRA staff and the DD board review all applicant grant requests for approval. In addition to that, we want to have diverse applications, so we're going to move forward to having one in English and having one in Spanish. And also, I'll be meeting with Elise next month. We're going to be going over your policies, and with that, we may look at having a Spanish version. At the time that we do that, if there's a cost associated, then I'll bring it back because we may have to have somebody be able to translate those documents for us to make sure that, one, it's very clear I don't speak Spanish, I don't write Spanish, so at the end of the day, we may have to partner with someone to be able to do that. So at that time, I may bring this request back to you all as a board. But that's our goal for how we're going to be able to increase awareness that's our strategy for how we're going to be able to increase awareness of downtown by funding a variety of events and having that diverse application in terms of having a Spanish version. I think that will allow us to be able to connect to more people, potentially in the gateway, to be able to fund and support projects that happen in their footprint, as long as it's within your footprint too for the neighborhood. Okay. Strategy number 2 is fill vacant storefronts with art. This was a carryover. So the goal for this one would be to hire 8 artists or artists, identify various mediums of art to be displayed, and also the period of time. So we do have vacant storefronts that are in downtown as well as going into the gateway. So the thought with this is to be, one, assign a DDB staff to work with potentially myself and Eric, and the thought would be is to connect with the Arts Alliance and then put together like a call to artists. And in that, we can talk about the different types of artwork that could be potentially displayed in a storefront. And it could be everything from a window art mural. Lena and her services, she did a great thing with the trash art, but I really love the wearable food art that you contract with the CRA to do before. So it could be a multitude of things. So for this one, I would like to have, like you all, to assign a DDB staff to be able to work with the CRA for this, and then also settle them out. So if we are going to do a call to artists, what would that cost be? A couple of things to consider when we talk about a storefront is prepping it. So it needs to be prepped to be able to receive the art. And if we're talking about vacant storefronts, typically they've been vacant for a while. So you're going to have to be clean for it to be set up, as well as also taking down the art and having a, Lena, help me with this, that back.
Backdrops, white backdrops, so you don't see the bad background.
Is this where you want us to nominate someone?
Nominate someone. I need you all to nominate someone, and we need to put a amount to how much you all would like to provide. And I want to be able to use, when we contract with Lena prior to her being a council member, we contracted with her for $10,000 and we did 10 storefronts. And it's my thought that we could potentially find, 6 storefronts. We could find 6 storefronts between the 400 block of Cleveland Street, and then going further down into the East Gateway for your footprint for vacant storefronts that we could be able to display.
But you're asking for a board member to coordinate that.
I'm asking for a board member first.
So normally,
to work with us.
right, Ray, it's the newest board member gets this type of assignment?
Usually, yeah. Or the
that
one that
right,
doesn't
Sean?
show up, but everybody showed up.
I think it was more she's artistic than anything.
We're looking for a nomination.
Oh, okay, I nominate myself.
Works for me.
Got the hint, that's great.
And then with that, we want to be able to set amount, and it's my thought that maybe if we're looking at 6 storefronts, then maybe $2,000 a storefront for an artist, and then also the materials, especially if we do a call to artists. And this is a way for them to be able to showcase their work and work with your car. We can have different mediums. So like I said, it could be window murals, it could be wearable art, it could be visual art photos, it could be a mirage of things. So $2,000 storefront seems like a reasonable amount to me. I'm not an artist. This isn't my area of expertise, but I'm going off what we've done previously. And
I don't know, that sounds.
Well, it depends. If you,
Sounds reasonable.
it's reasonable depending on what you're asking the artist. If you're asking an artist to create something, it's not.
Right.
I mean, no one can live on that. But if you're asking them to rotate some of the artwork from other places, and so you're just hiring the artist to maintain the art, transport the art, then I think it's reasonable, because I've done it, and you spend a lot of money on repairs, painting, cleaning, lighting, and backdrops. So when you subtract that, that's literally like $150, $200 left for an artist. So I would think that the artists that are going to respond are the ones that already have art in stock and will be using that area to exhibit it, rather than creating a new piece. So it could be flexible.
so 2,000, 12,000, reasonable, 15.
I'm going to ask, I think artists are always the last to recover after either, a pandemic or a recession, so they're still suffering. So, you know, if you could be generous, that'd be great.
So then I'm going to say I would think maybe 18,000, so 3,000 a storefront to create and rotate the art. So I would say 18 would be my recommendation.
Anybody?
I think that's fair.
Caitlin?
Depends on each one, you know.
Well, we
They're
knew that.
creating something new, maybe 3,000. If they're just moving something over, maybe 2. They also get to put their name on it, which promotes them and markets them.
Right. So they get brand recognition and be able to
Right.
get their name out there. And that's why I thought partnering with the Arts Alliance to be able to bring this vision to life might be a good avenue to be able to push out the call to artists. And it could be one portion create, one portion have what you already have in your portfolio, and then be able to rotate it.
I think we could set the budget, but should be overseeing it and hopefully negotiate with them or work out what they could. And
So, but are you talking that they're gonna paint like the windows or expose their own art inside?
Well, that's what we would work together to decide, because we need to put together the information, and then, like I said, I'm thinking about partnering with the Arts Alliance, so we would bring it to them, but we do have to work through some of what the parameters would be. But the biggest thing is what's going to be the nominal value. So once we have that amount, and that letter goes out, and we say this is what we want, and also seeking guidance from maybe Beth at the Arts Alliance to say, hey, what would be feasible, whether it's picture art that gets rotated 6 months, a window mural art that might only be $1,000. So, but base price, thinking about 6 stores, 15, 12,000, or 3,000 per store, which would be 18,000.
Well, I would say that we can budget up to that, and then, of course, depends on what they are going to do.
Sure.
For the cost.
No? I would say maximum.
Shouldn't you know what you want to do before you set a budget?
Here's what I'd like to do. That's a good point. Since Kiara volunteered and has a background with art, and obviously can liaison with Lena or whomever, the idea is good. We want to make the empty windows not look so empty and make it prettier, right, and more attractive. So with that in mind, maybe we get the ball rolling, and then a proposal, but she has carte blanche to bring back to us what we should spend or not spend.
Yeah, well, it's also my, well, I don't want to already create enemies here, but it's the responsibility of the owner of the building to keep the building in good shape, because the reality is that downtown, it's a jewel, like, it's beautiful, but it's the owner of the building that is supposed to be responsible to keep it clean, not trashy, and with a backdrop. If we want to have a backdrop and close it so we don't see all the garbage that there is behind.
Well, we would have that,
I mean,
have that
that
white
is their
silhouette behind it.
responsibility.
So,
The owner, they have to do it. I mean, this is my opinion, like, every time I own a building, I do my best, and I'm so proud to keep it so clean and nice, and that everybody's gonna be able to see and do it. I mean,
I think, is it necessarily stores that are in bad condition or just empty storefronts?
well, when you think about what you see when you're walking or driving, for not having anything, and you can tell when a business is vacant by looking at their storefronts. So depending on what storefront is chosen, obviously we want something that's going to be in reasonably good condition. But I just want to be clear, we do have some storefronts down here. If you look inside of them, they are in disrepair. They do need work. So the thought would be if we did have the artists go in, clean up the space, which we would fund that as part of their application, and then they put that white silhouette behind it, you're only seeing the art. And then from the aesthetics of it, as you walk by or drive by or jog by, it does not look empty because there's something on display.
Right.
You see this all the time when you go into malls. So once the store closes out, it's either blacked out or there's some type of silhouette on it, so that it doesn't really look like that store is empty. This is the same message, same thought process that we would apply here.
And this falls into what we're allowed to do. things you're talking about are a little bit more like code enforcement, I would say, which
I don't know,
falls
I'm
into
it's
the...
like just proudness.
Yeah.
To be nice.
Well, it's true, and if the
Have a nice
other things occur within other departments in the city, some of
Yeah.
that'll get cleaned up, and maybe this is an opportunity for us to put some money and whatnot, art into the building, and talk to the owners and see if we can't encourage, some cleanup as well. That would be great.
Again, we're trying to make sure that, downtown does look busy, it's occupied, but also add that art feature as one of those staples. When you talk about revitalization, the art is one of those key components that you want to use in revitalizing the city for Blight. So with that, we'll bring this back to you. I'll work with Kara, we'll adopt the program, we'll communicate with the Arts Alliance, and then we'll come up with a budget for what works and potentially talk about what the call to artist letter will look like, and we'll bring it back forward to you to adopt potentially next month or in March. Okay?
Good.
So the third strategy is increasing awareness of downtown as a destination. This was also a carryover from last year, but one of the things that we want to do differently is establish a hashtag campaign for all events and programs or projects that happen in downtown. So this year when we did the downtown window decoration, the artist was able to sign their tag, but they also had to feature the Downtown Clearwater website, downtownclearwater.com. So we would ask that for this strategy, that we would, on any artwork that happens, anybody that gets funding from the DDB, they would also have to include that hashtag. So this is a way for people to be able to post and share unique stories about what happens in downtown. And we can follow that between how many people gets driven to the page, what they're looking at, their likes, their clicks, and so forth. So that's how we intend to be able to complete, that's the strategy we want to apply to be able to complete that goal. Okay. The next goal is on the business assistance. The business assistant goal is to retain current businesses and also attract new ones. So for strategy number one, support the connection to downtown through a variety of transmodal services, and that's using more than one mode or modality to be able to transport. With this, the goal would be is to identify various transport services in and around downtown Clearwater that could potentially market and engage travelers about downtown. So we will work together with you as staff to potentially bring a request that come for you in terms of a way to be able to market downtown, whether that's going through PSTA. You heard from Jasper here a little while ago about his Way to Go services. So that's how we would actually meet, that's the strategy that we would apply to be able to meet that goal. Next one is create an annual report, which is what you all said you want to do. So moving forward, we will create an annual report, and that will feature the accomplishments of the board. Also updating and providing a new district map, which you saw another one, which is a new blue one that has the streets. It's a little bit bigger. So when you talk about the catchment area of DDB, you can see what the DDB footprint actually is and the streets. So we've done that. And in that annual report, it will also have various events funded by the DDB and the different type of program services that was offered. This will happen annually every year in October and will be the key staff to facilitate that. Right, Ann? Okay. Well, it should be ready for them in October. No?
Ann Lopez, CRA Program Specialist. The CRA is required by state statute to create an annual report that we have to present to the trustees. We give that to the county, and we also send it off to the state. That annual report begins in January, because if I'm able to officially close out in December, past fiscal year. So it starts in January, and it's due by March 31st. So it would be my idea with this annual report that it would follow the same type of timeline, that it would be something that once December is over and I'm able to close out your financial year, that I would begin it in January with the hopes that it would be done for you by March.
So 3 months from now.
Correct.
Okay. Great.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, and then strategy 3 under business assistant is to raise awareness of the DDB's funding support for local business marketing and social media presence. So this one was to actually develop a marketing campaign. And this was going to be done for local businesses, and the goal with this was to support 20 businesses at $2,500 each to be able to access the program. So with this one, and this was the carryover from when we talked about this with Paris, I want to say maybe in September, October. So we have a short outline that's been done, and Keenan was working with Eric to be able to facilitate this. So what happened to be able to complete this objective, and this is just an overview. The goal is in April is to be able to bring back the program to you all for review and approval. And then April 7th, on that Friday, we want to be able to launch the grant program. With the mindset of May 15, once the program is launched, letters of approval will go out to those individuals that have applied and have been awarded the grant. And then with that, starting June 1 through August 31st, they're eligible to start investing their money in their social media platform to be able to market their individual businesses. So that's just a short template in the time frame. Okay. And then strategy number 4 is support and encourage the CRA and the city businesses and the city's business and economic development programs. So on that note, you guys do that by supporting any endeavors that we bring in front of you for a city initiative. So this is something that will pretty much happen on an ongoing basis. If there was a project and we thought it would be vital and you guys could, and you as a board could assist, we would bring that project to you all. All right, and then for the last one is our policy and project goals, is to create a more welcoming downtown. So the strategy that we want to apply to this is survey the property owners, and this is when I came back to saying that we want to adopt and do a letter of interest. With that, with the marketing company, they would also survey the property owners, the local merchants, and also the key stakeholders of downtown. And then for this one, I also would like for you all to be able to appoint a staff to be able to work with us on this.
Any volunteers? What would the work entail?
Well, the work would entail is just really working with us and kind of diving through what a letter of interest would look like and some of the requirements, and then coming up with that process and then pushing it out. And the goal would be, once the letter goes out, probably have it advertised for 30, maybe 45 days. Once the applicants submit their marketing program, be able to go through and review it, and potentially probably decide maybe 3 or 4 that would be worth having them come to you as a board and present their ideas. And it would need to be a complete marketing program, so that way we're not bringing all 10 applicants, or if it's 15, we would really probably will it down to 3 or 4 and let them present, and then you all could decide as a board for which marketing program you all would like to move forward with.
So it'd be a couple meetings coordinating with the CRA and you and the staff, and you'd do a lot of the legwork.
Yes.
So it'd be a couple meetings. Anybody?
I mean, we would do the heavy lifting, but to kind of get the feedback and the ideas.
If you want to do it, please do it.
No, but he's the marketing guy.
Oh.
Well, it'd be my thought.
Wait a
But
second.
you're totally okay. I mean,
Whatever you guys want.
Ray Casano.
Festus, was that a volunteer? Was that?
Ray Casano.
Oh.
no, I think she wants to do it. Kara, I nominate Kara.
Okay. Since you're already filling up the stores with beautiful art, would you like to take care of the lighting as well?
Sure.
Okay.
The lighting, marketing that you're talking about.
Yeah.
This is marketing.
Marketing.
Oh, we
To
skipped
do
over
the
lighting.
letter of
Sorry,
interest.
I was lumping
No
that
lighting.
into.
So we're right here. We're right here.
You have a volunteer.
We have a volunteer. Okay. So with that, I did a little bit of research and want to kind of talk through what a marketing program could potentially look like. You and I did have a short conversation when we were discussing the programs. But looking at this, to be able to feed into the DDB's website, we also want them to do a logo. And if we're looking at putting out a letter of interest, we're all going to have to attach some type of amount. So my thought would be, and I want to recommend maybe funding the marketing campaign in an amount of $75,000 or up to $75,000. It could be less, or at the end of the day, it would not go over that amount, depending on what's being presented, because we're talking about the entire footprint of the DDB, and we're talking about a marketing program for a year, not 6 months, but a year.
Do we have that much left in our budget in this category?
Yes, you do.
Any thoughts? It's a lot of money. Festus?
Hey, you're the
Set it aside,
treasurer.
not necessarily spend it all.
What's that?
We could set it aside, but not necessarily spend it all.
Is that a
And there
recommendation?
could be discussions once they come in and present, once you all decide on a marketing campaign, a marketing company, then that dialogue or discussion can be discussed at that time.
I like the set aside and just, you know,
I mean, it's a $7,500 to create the logo.
75,000 set aside for the whole program is what I.
Yes, the whole marketing program, which would also include the logo, the branding, but also the marketing campaign for a year for all the businesses in your footprint, up to 75,000.
yeah, we could set aside that and decide later how to spend it.
It would have to come back to be approved.
Yes.
Yes,
It
okay,
would.
that's fair.
It's fine.
Sounds good.
Before we enter any type of contracts or agreement, you guys would have to approve them up, but first we have to get people in front of you. You guys would have to approve the marketing company that you would want to work with, and then we would go forward from there.
Perfect.
Okay. And then the second one, as we're almost done, support the Cleveland Street Lighting Project Initiative. Work with city staff on an RFP to develop a development up to approval for a permanent lighting project in downtown Clearwater. With this, the Parks and Recreation Department is already working on a lighting project that's supposed to take place at Crest Lake Park. So it's my thought, if this initiative is to move forward, it may be an opportunity for the DDB to be able to support this and say, how do we expand that from Crest Lake Park to the downtown area? So this is something that will be determined based off of what happens with that lighting installation in Crest Lake Park. So this would be one way that we thought you all could be able to meet that goal, is by partnering with that.
It's true, right, that as the park opens, there's going to be full-time parks people up and down Cleveland from park to park?
I do not know,
Okay.
but I will get back to you with that information.
Okay.
We
Seems
do
like
have the town square going in too, between Crest Lake and downtown.
You said the town square?
Well, I call it town square, it's where Cleveland
the
meets
gateway.
Gulf.
The Mercado was.
The Mercado, yeah, okay.
Yes, formerly of the festival court, that is happening. But the Crest Lake Park is above that. So if the DDB can partner and support the lighting initiative, it would only be within your footprint. And your footprint for Cleveland Street ends at, Frederica. Okay.
So we're not allocating any money now, we're just suggesting we're going to work with the city.
Right, and on that note, if you all agree to that, you want to do that, and this is a strategy that we apply, then we would talk with Parks and Recreations to see how we could potentially partner with them in that RFP.
Well, of course we'd be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yep.
I agree.
All right, so then the next one is, for this strategy, is activate public spaces for pedestrian traffic on Cleveland Street. With this goal, this strategy to apply for this is to identify various locations in the DDB district to be able to activate. One of the thoughts for this is that if we had an applicant, and primarily the majority of the services that happen in and around downtown happen between the 4, 5, and 600 block, but potentially if somebody wanted to do something else in your footprint, then on that note, they could come in and get funding. But do we potentially want to incentivize that funding? So if you want to have an event and it happens somewhere other than the corridor for downtown, for the 4, 500, 600 blocks, would you all want to incentivize it? You don't have to. I'm asking the question.
Such as like the park by the Nolan, something like
The
that.
park by the Nolan, it also could be further in the gateway. You do have city-owned property that's right between, I want to say that's Missouri, and there's a little side street right, Fifth Third Bank. It's a covered area with a lot of trees. That's city-owned property. Too, or if it was a private venue, as long as it had access to the public and they allowed the public to be able to participate, you also could support that initiative. So just not having everything happen based off of our discussion in 4, 5, and 600 block in Station Square Park.
Anybody object to this? I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Perfect. Here we go.
Okay, well then I will work on that and get the application done and bring it back to you all to say what amount you want to put, would you all like to assign to that to be able to incentivize events to happen outside of the main corridor of Cleveland Street. And then the last one is support special event guide website. So for this one, and quote me if I'm wrong, but we've already attached this Parks and Rec special event to the DDB webpage on our city website, or we're getting ready to do that by the end of the month. it will be done by the end of the month, so automatically you guys will start off completing that goal. It's done? Okay, so it is done. So you guys have already completed that goal for that strategy. So with that, I need you all to approve your 23 through 25 work plan that will be reviewed annually if you're okay with these strategies.
So I think I'm supposed to, there is a citizen here. Is there any more discussion from the board? No? Citizen comments? No? Then I request a motion.
Propose a motion to approve the work plan of 2023 to 2025.
Motion by Shahab.
I second.
Second by Mr. Casano. Any other discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard, and all the CRA staff. I know this was a lot of work. We sat in on one day of meetings, but you guys do this every day. And I had went a couple of years ago down to St. Pete for a different type of a work session forum with Caitlin, and it was different, and it was St. Pete run. This was a whole lot different and better, in my opinion, because you guys are so invested in the town. So I think it was major steps forward.
And it cannot have been done without all the staff, so we all work together to make this initiative
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see here. I think 4.4, Elise, we're going to discuss funding with Catalyst at this point.
That's fine.
Elise Winters, your attorney. On September 15th, 2021, we approved a grant for the DCMA at $39,000 to begin in October, $39,000 of which was for a marketing program, and the grant required that they hire Catalyst, that's not the full name of the company, to perform the services. The grant was with the DCMA, but we would pay Catalyst directly. The grant, we always have an agreement, any grant that's approved, we have a signed contract, and that signed contract required that there be a signed contract between DCMA and Catalyst. It required a marketing plan, it required monthly invoices, and it required backup data. There never was a marketing plan. Although there has been sort of presented to us for approval. And we didn't get any invoicing until September of this year. The DCMA, without a contract, approved Catalyst to begin work, and Catalyst did do a lot of work. Unfortunately, not within the terms of the contract, but the work did benefit downtown. Then when we did get the invoicing and the backup materials, a lot of it was things that we could not pay. For instance, if it says Gateway, most of the Gateway area is not in our district, so unless you tell us how it was in our district, we can't use our tax dollars there. And there were marketing for events that we had already approved marketing grants for. So there were things that we can't do, but she did an awful lot of work. We just needed her to, if you all were willing to accept the deviation from the contract, we needed her to document that work in a way that put it within our purposes and the overall purposes of the grant. And of course, CCMA has to approve it too, because they're the actual employer. We met in October and went through what needed to be fixed. We did get, we gave them an opportunity to give us additional information. Also suggested that she should run it by me first to make sure that it's really what we're looking for. She has run the month of October 2021, and it's good. And I got that in probably December. Okay, and Sheila was going to get the rest of it to me shortly thereafter. We haven't received it yet. It's a one-person company, she's busy, and I understand that, but we're already in an entirely different budget year. So and in order to pay her, once she provides us the information, we're going to have to come back before you and get approval to pay under different conditions in a different budget year. So it is a big deal. I think at this point, we need to put a deadline on it. And my suggestion is that we put a deadline of January 24th to get everything submitted so that staff and I have a chance to go through it and bring it to you at the February meeting with a recommendation. But we really need that deadline.
Any comments, questions?
Is that long enough time for her to, I mean, it's been,
Well, it's been months, and, you know,
Years.
it has, actually, it was supposed to be invoiced monthly. So, yeah, at this point, she's got the format, she's got the information. You all have, I mean, this is 39 grand. That's a big dip out of your grant budget, and you all need to know whether or not you're going to be paying it.
I have two questions. One, the money's sitting there waiting to be spent, correct?
If the money is not used for this purpose, you all have to approve it for this year.
Right.
Because you guys from last year can't bind this year. So this year, you all have to approve this if you're going to pay it.
So my second question would be with
And it
that,
was up to $39,000.
right, so with that understood and within the legal requirements that we can and cannot approve, is it possible to make an exception due to, let's just call it COVID cover, because of the amount of work this person and company did for the DCMA for us, et cetera? Would it be possible for our staff to draw up invoices?
No.
It's not-
She has to
it's not
provide the
legally
information,
possible.
because she's already provided us information that is public record, asking for payment that things we can't pay.
Can the DCMA?
So she needs to tell us what she did that we can pay for. We can't make that up.
Can the DCMA write up the invoices instead, if she doesn't come? Can the DCMA, because we want to get the money paid.
I know, and we've given her opportunities, and when I last talked to her, she said it was something she could get done quickly.
24th sounds good.
okay, well, then
24th
if
it
she
is.
said it,
Yeah.
that's, the idea is not to stiff this person.
Pardon?
The idea is not to sift the person's word, but, okay, sure, 24th.
Yeah.
Give her 2 weeks, maybe she'll finish it, hopefully.
Well, if we don't get it in by the 24th, I'm gone on the 26th, and won't be back in time to get it done before your meeting. I'll be gone on your meeting date.
That sounds good.
So, sending it into March, when you've got other people who are looking for this budget, we need to be able, because right now you have not approved paying that 39 grand. Or a portion of the 39 grand.
I have a question. Go ahead.
This was from 2019?
The contract began the contract was approved September 2021, and it began October 2021, so it was last fiscal year. It's not, we're into the, one new fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, got it.
so, but it was something that she was going to work on over the holidays and get to me. I haven't received it yet, and you all know I know how to nag,
That's fine, I agree.
all right?
Yeah.
What happens if she misses the deadline, 24th?
Pardon?
What happens if she misses the deadline on the 24th?
Then that money goes back, well, that money is still in general circulation, but that money is available to you. You are already making a huge exception. If you approve this. You haven't approved it yet. You're already making a huge exception because there was no contract, there was no marketing, the invoices were not, and the backup document did not support her payment. Might have supported a portion of it, but, going with what we have, if she doesn't get this information in, we could bring October to you for payment. She got me that. We could bring October to you for payment. If she gets us a few more months, we could bring those to you for payment. But we have to document that we're not paying for services in Gateway, and that we're not double paying what we already paid on another grant.
That all sounds good.
And we can't do that. It has to come from her.
Can we reach out, can we put that in the 24th, but also one last shot from the CRA to reach out to the DCMA to try and help get that done?
I have already sent to them that this was going to be my recommendation.
Okay, so you've already done that.
I've done that.
So there's not much else we can do.
No, let's go with her. our
Anybody?
attorney.
Sounds good. Okay,
Sounds good.
24th it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, but which one was the original deadline by when she was supposed to deliver all this receipt?
I'm sorry?
But which one was the original deadline? By when?
The original deadline was monthly during the year, the year that's already gone. The original deadline was monthly invoices during the year that's already gone.
This will get her going the 24th.
So it's,
But why you want to give her another opportunity?
There's extenuating circumstances,
It's worked quite a bit.
and she did a lot of the work, and she has some family obligations. So if we can get this done, I think it's fair, a couple more
Yeah,
weeks. We all
24th.
agree?
We're all in agreement.
And,
But- yeah, and we're planning to take care of this so it doesn't happen again, in that the contracts are being revised. We discussed that. The contracts are being revised to include deadlines right in the contracts. If you want to get paid, we have to have it by, all right? And if we don't have it by, and most of our stuff is reimbursement, so we have to put wiggle room in there for them to actually get the bills and get them paid, but there will be, so that we won't be unreasonable on it, but the contracts are going to have deadlines, so we don't run into this situation again.
It seems more than fair. Everybody
Yeah.
agree?
I agree.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, agreed.
Perfect.
Need a motion.
We need a motion.
I move we make it by the 24th of January. She gets the information.
Motion by Ray. Do I have a second? Second. Terry? I heard her. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Any further discussion? Citizens? None? Yes? Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, Elise. 4.5, the November 2022 financial statement. Ms. Lopez.
Good evening again, afternoon. Ann Lopez, CRA Program Specialist. This item that I have before you, this is a request of, wrong paperwork, request approval of the November 2022 financial statement for filing. Your funds spent in the month of November were $39,556.72. You'll see a summary of your expenditures outlined. And again, if you remember, we have changed the format of your expenditure sheet, so you will now see a line item for each approved special event that you guys get. So as we move through the year, you can see how that spending is going for their original request.
So in layman's terms, how much money do we have left for this rest of this year?
Well, with this, as of December 30th, which was when I created these agenda items, for your marketing category, you were a negative $79,395.99. You had a remaining balance in business assistance of $50,000, and in policy and project work, you had a remaining balance of $22,049.
So is this a cash call that Shahab has to pony up to cover the negative? Is that?
Oh, get a discount?
Are these I had the November statements.
Yes, this is
Oh,
November.
okay.
Yes.
The numbers you were talking about were through December? Or,
That was when I was able to enter it into the system, so that kind of gives you the best up-to-date number I can provide on your agenda item itself. Yep.
Any board questions?
We beat it to death last time.
We did beat it to death. Okay. And it'll update next meeting, correct?
Yes, it will.
No citizens, so I need a motion.
Motion to approve the November 2022 financial statement for filing.
Motion by
Second.
Caitlin, second by Ray. Any further discussion? No? Do we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you. I guess you're going to stay for 4.6?
I am.
Excellent.
Ann Lopez, CRA Program Specialist. This agenda item is to approve amendments to the Downtown Development Board fiscal year 2022-2023 budget and adopt resolution 23-04. Staff is recommending an allocation of $518,396 of the DDB's unassigned funds as follows, and we're also asking for you to increase your reserves from 50 to 75. And as you guys were working with Howard on your work plan, we had kind of anticipated potentially some budget numbers, so I had provided to each of you a printed copy of our recommendations, but that's since changed based on the conversations you guys had that you approved in your work plan. So staff is recommending that you increase your special event grant line by $278,396. That will include adding in $75,000 that you did approve in your work plan as a budget for the DDB marketing and branding. One item that you guys did have in there was the vacancy window art program. Staff had recommended potentially $15,000 because the board did not include that money as part of the work plan. In sitting here while you guys were approving that, it would be my recommendation to move that $15,000 into your line as future downtown initiatives. In the past year, the board approved the Downtown Business Marketing Program. That was the program that's going to reach to different businesses throughout the DDB to help create new marketing for them. The board had allocated and approved a budget of $15,000. Staff is actually just recommending moving that from your marketing category to your business assistance category based on how it was approved in your work plan.
Makes sense.
The next recommendation is to increase your business assistance grant line by $50,000. So that would take that line specifically from $50,000 to a budget of $100,000 for this fiscal year. Under policy and project work, staff was recommending to put a budget limit of $75,000 for permanent lighting, but based on the conversations you had with your work plan, that also is staff's recommendation to move to future downtown initiatives. So with moving the $15,000 from window art and the $75,000 from the downtown permanent lighting, this would now make your future downtown initiatives line item $115,000. And then following after that, your staff and office administration and fixed payments would all remain the same.
Excellent. Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the amended budget with the $15,000, $75,000 being moved to future downtown initiatives.
Motion by Caitlin, second. Shahab, do we have a second? Any other discussion or questions? Okay, do we have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Kiara, the meetings are normally not this long. We don't want to scare you.
Like, okay.
Yeah, no, normally this is pretty beefy.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So 4.7, Mr. Smith.
Howard Smith, Business Assistant Administrator for the CRA. So for the purpose of this item, based off our previous conversation, was to go through and walk through your funding policy. So I'm going to talk through this. If we're going to make changes, I will have Ann actually type those, and we'll update this policy in real time. So what you all have in front of you is the strike-through version. I had a chance to consult with Elise to go over the policy and say what revisions or what changes need to be made based off of our discussion and guidance, as well as the work plan. So with that, this will be the updated version of the DDB, the Clearwater Downtown Development Board Grant Request Policy and Procedure.
So the one on the screen is accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
one on the screen is what you have in front of you, minus the strike throughs. Okay? So under number 1 for the policy, property owners, residents, and businesses located within the DDB district and events or projects that will occur in the DDB district are eligible to apply for grants. Grant funds must be used to assist in revitalizing the DDB district. So under number 2 under the policy, grant requests must comply with state and local laws, ordinance, and regulations, and the DDB ordinance, bylaws, policies, and the current work plan. Grant requests must be considered in 2 categories, marketing and special events, and business assistance. During each annual budget process, a funding amount will be allocated to each category. So specifically under marketing and special events, with some limited exceptions determined on a case-by-case basis, marketing and special event grants will cover all city fees, and marketing costs not to exceed.
We have a question.
I have a legal correction, actually. We have always had the option of funding part or all.
Yes.
You're only trying to say here that those are the 2 areas we will fund in. You're not saying that if we accept the grant, we'll fund all city fees and all marketing regardless.
No, we'll get into that. We will fund all the city fees that are there and then the marketing up to $10,000. So not the total, not just $10,000 for the total application, but covering the cost of city fees and covering the cost for marketing up to $10,000 based off the conversation.
In a legal argument, I could easily say that you're agreeing to pay all city fees and all marketing up to $10,000.
Agree.
That means the all needs to come out.
Can we strike that? Do you
So
all?
then how should, from your perspective, how would it read? So then make sure just taking out the all, or pay city fees?
We'll cover city fees and marketing costs not to exceed
Where is
$10,000.
that?
Number A. We'll cover all.
Hold that.
A, second line.
Well, let me ask this question, because when I hear that, when I say city fees and marketing not to exceed $10,000, so city fees is one part of the application. City fees can be $2,000, and if a person was asking for marketing and the amount up to $10,000, then their total grant application could be $12,000.
It's got to be, no, it's got, the overall grant, well, if we want to clarify, with an overall grant not to exceed. You could cover city fees and marketing costs with the overall grant not to exceed.
Or could it just be marketing and special event grants not to exceed $10,000 to cover city fees and marketing costs?
Either one is fine with me.
My understanding is he's asking to pay city fees some, or city fees plus
Plus marketing.
up to $10,000 marketing.
And that was my discussion when I spoke with each one of you, that we wanted to cover city fees, because when we make a recommendation from the staff, we're very clear about what an what a grant applicant can ask for. But our recommendation, to be consistent and be transparent, is that the city fees, which includes the renting of a park or renting out a city location space, also the permit costs, in certain cases, if they require an insurance for the event, those would be fees that we would recommend that get covered. And then for the marketing, up to $10,000. So for a large event, $10,000 of marketing might be conceivable. For a small event, for like the HOC, I think they did approximately $1,000 for marketing. So the total application could exceed $10,000, which would include city fees and marketing for a large event. Smaller events, the application might be $5,000 in total.
Yes,
And it can be plus.
Correct. So what I would suggest is marketing and special event grants will or can cover marketing costs not to exceed $10,000 and city fees. Just switch them.
Plus the city.
Switch them around.
I mean, it depends, right? I mean, we may decide not to cover city fees for some reason, or we may not decide,
Yeah, you all would still decide as a board. So when the applicant presents their request, if there are certain fees within the city, you say, hey, listen, we're as a board, we don't think that's feasible to cover. Because again, you can cover all, part, or none. You all can literally decide on a case-by-case basis what you want to cover and cover, but also if you want to cover more. So our recommendation is just a recommendation. But if they come in and the applicant pleads their case and they want to receive funding, that's on the case-by-case basis with justification.
But this, this is what the board is basing its, you'll make the recommendations. But if you say we're going to pay all fees in the policy, I mean, if you say we're going to pay all fees in the
You have
policy,
to.
you've taken the right away for them to pay part or all or none.
So we take out the all, and then what
And
you're
her
saying
wording actually, I
is
think, covered it.
switching it.
Yeah.
It's cover city fees, cover the cost of city fees, and then marketing not to up to $10,000 or not to exceed $10,000.
And so then I would just cut it after city fees.
End it there.
Yeah, city fees, period, and then delete the rest of the sentence.
For my own edification, what is the average city fees per the, let's say, the 14 events we did last year?
Well, it depends on the size of the event. Typically, a smaller event, the city fees might be somewhere between probably $1,000 or less. Larger events, I think they've been around about $3,000.
Okay. Should we
So it varies.
should we be putting a limit on the city fees as well?
Well, it varies by the event, but in most cases, those city fees, no one can have an event without paying those. So in terms of trying to have the applicant through the process, and the reason why we recommend covering the city fees, because that's the standard across the board. So any applicant that's coming to you all for support for their event that's going to be open to the public for access, it's those city fees that are going to have an impact.
Okay.
And then we also want them to be able to market the event so that it can be successful. So those are the two mediums that, as a board, you all would have control over to be able to support an event to make sure that it's successful and have the impact that you want that goes into your plan.
Elise?
That also makes sense if you're going to be a Kickstarter. If you're talking about established events, big established events, you know, covering the city fees, they can't do that, they probably shouldn't be doing the event. But if you're talking about being a Kickstarter and helping events get started, then the city fees are important.
So somebody may come with a big event, kickstart, they may need 3, 4, 5,000 in city fees. We may not have to approve all of that if they're not matching. But they may get the 4 or 5,000 plus up to 10,000 in marketing. So it could end up being a $15,000 event.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's, everybody okay with that?
Well, if they're demanding that they open up the event to the city and to everyone, then it makes sense to pay the fee.
Well, and I think also later, we talk about more input from them, so we're not just funding the entire thing. So that's coming up also.
So I just want to go back and read it one more time just to make sure that we got it right. So under the marketing special events with some limited exceptions determined on a by-case basis, marketing and special event grants will cover marketing costs not to exceed $10,000 and city fees. The DDB will not approve grant requests for recurring events more than twice. And for this one, I would suggest maybe putting in without board approval. So my thought with that, if we did have an applicant coming in front of y'all on their second request, at that time we could ask them, do you potentially see this coming back for you as a board for another request? We can discuss that then and let you all know that this could be a recurring request. And if you guys would like to hear that, then when they come in to apply, we could also bring that forward.
That's fine, please.
Cover their prior discussion about they're not just talking about events coming back twice, they're talking about if specific requests are coming back twice. If that is what you all really want, then I would say, referring to the other attorney in the room, but just to start it off, for reoccurring events or grantees.
Yeah.
Do we have a confirmation?
Oh, whatever Elise says, that's
That sounds good,
Okay?
unless Shahab wants to alter it.
Let's go.
So then we cover that piece. The DDB will not approve grant requests for recurring events for grantees more than twice.
Good.
So then under business assistance grants,
Well, I apologize for interrupting. I thought you had mentioned other language, like without board approval.
We're talking to Elise?
without, yeah, I said that, without board approval.
Okay.
Just so that then it would come before us and we can make that decision, but yeah.
And then that frees it up for a grant request to come in for this twice, and then you guys can make a decision if you want to fund it or not. Okay. And then under business assistance grants requests will only be approved for purposes of being visibly outside of the business premises, which would include marketing, exterior signage, and outdoor seating. And typically for the business assistance, when those applicants come forward, they're seeking signage for their business. So that's the reason why this language is very specific. So as an example, if an applicant, and I'll just use Emily, in Lee's Restaurant, if they came in front of you all, they want to get signage, they would apply under business assistance, and then that would be for signage for their building.
Perfect.
Okay? And then number 4, the DDB will prioritize funding requests that align with the current work plan. The applicant is required to contribute financially to the event. Although not a requirement, third-party financial participation is encouraged.
Define third party for everybody.
Third party could be anything like co-sponsorship from the city. So typically what happens prior to this year, applicants, as long as they applied by the end of February, they could see co-sponsorship from the city to be able to support the event, where a portion, if not all of their city fees would be covered. But also looking for other sponsors or other entities that can actually support the event with funding. So that way, when that grant requests come in, when we talk about skin in the game, not only do you have the applicant supporting this, but you also have a potential outside additional funding source.
Perfect.
And that is included on the application for additional funding sources.
All right.
Okay, and then number 5, grant payments will be issued in accordance with the DDB financial policies, except in extraordinary circumstances approved by the DDB. Payments are made on a reimbursement basis. So that there needs to be justification for the reason why an individual would need to receive upfront funding.
Which you have an example, because we did 1 or 2 this year.
Well, actually, 3?
3.
It was 3 this year.
They were extraordinary.
Yes.
Okay, good.
But that's not the norm. That should be the exception.
Okay.
All right, so under the funding request procedure, the applicant will complete a grant funding request form at least 30 days before the DDB meeting, at which it will be submitted, and also discussed with CRA staff. Staff will provide direction to the applicant on the DDB's funding priorities. So before we bring a grant request for you, we need to have time to work with those individuals to make sure that they have their budget, their application is complete, and we have all the information, as well as be able to explain to them and get back the feedback from them for how their event will tie into supporting the businesses in downtown. So we're asking them to submit their application 30 days before a board meeting.
Great.
Upon completion, the CRA staff will email the grant request to the DDB members for review. Questions and comments to which the applicant must respond through staff prior to the DDB meeting. So when I send you all the list of here's who all applied, here's their information, here's the action for, at that time, which you get normally 10 days before the meeting, you can ask questions. I'll communicate back with the applicant to either make sure that they're prepared when they come into the meeting to be able to answer those questions, or respond back to you depending on when they're submitted, so you will have your answer prior to the meeting.
Could we specify, you just said at least 10 days, could we specify that?
Sure. Yeah.
So high tech.
So I'll go back and read this one again. So upon completion, the CRA staff will email the grant request to the DDB members 10 days prior to a board meeting for review. Questions and comments to which the applicant must respond through staff prior to the DDB meeting. Okay, then for next one, number 3, after the DDB members' feedback is received, CRA staff will prepare a recommendation, which will include the proposed grant amount, the project activities, payment schedule, the reporting requirements, the CRA staff recommendation, the grant request, and the applicant's response to the DDB questions and comments were presented at a DDB meeting for consideration. The DDB may choose to approve, alter, deny, or continue the application to another meeting. If a grant request, number 4, if a grant request is approved, the applicant will will complete the grant agreement detailing the approved request, proposed activities, the timeline, the budget, reporting requirements, and other pertinent information. Failure to comply with requirements could lead to a denial of funding. And that's your funding policy, so I need you all to approve it.
Any questions from the board?
It's better than before.
What's that?
It's better.
Excellent, I agree. Like to get a motion? No citizens. Noted, duly noted.
Well, they're staff, but they could be citizens.
That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt has a comment, I don't know. Can we get a motion?
Motion to approve the modified grant request policy and procedures.
Excellent.
I second it.
Motion by Caitlin, second by Ray. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you, good work as always.
Thank you.
More and more efficient. I think you're staying for the next item, right?
The updates.
Yes. Old business 5.1, the CRA. Update.
Wow.
So for the CRA updates, there's two things I would like to make mention. So for our viewers at home, the CRA is having its Streetscape Phase 3 meeting, which will take place on the 24th of this month. It's going to be happening at Nature's Food Patch, and that will be from 6 o'clock p.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. So for anybody that's in the impacted area for the streetscape, which is happening in the East Gateway for the remodeling of Cleveland Street and also the improvements that's being made, and also the Mercado, that gateway entrance that you're referring to, Ray, for Cleveland and East Gulf to Bay. We will have a community meeting where we will have not only the project manager from Gibbs and Register there that's actually doing the construction, but we also have the city project manager that will be there. Her name is Kat Corcoran. In addition to myself, and I'll be discussing this area business grants and that where businesses can apply if they're looking at trying to do do remodeling to their business during the construction. The project is due to be completed, and we're on track by the end of June or July 1st. And with that, that community meeting will take place, and we will discuss all that. So for the viewers at home, if they want to attend, again, it's going to be at Nature's Food Patch. If they have questions about the meeting, they can always reach out to me, send me an email or give me a call, Howard Smith at howard.smith@myclearwater.com, or at 727-562-4044 for my number. And then next, I'm really happy to talk about this next piece. We're going to have the CRA Directors Community Meetings. So starting in February from the 2nd through the 23rd, Jay has graciously decided to give up every Thursday in the month of February to be able to meet with the citizens. Whether you're a business owner, whether you're a resident, whether you're a tenant, you can come out and spend 45 minutes with her so she can get the business owners, tenants, and the residents' perspective about downtown and be able to kind of digest their feedback, but also meet the great citizens that we have and the business owners that we have in the downtown Clearwater area. So for the month of February, the morning time sessions will be from 9 o'clock to 12, and they will be at Buzz Ass Business Solutions, which is located at 645 Cleveland Street. And again, those dates are February 2nd, February 9th, February 16th, and February 23rd. And there will also be a PM session. And the PM session for the first part of this, for the 2nd and the 9th, will take place at Nature's Food Patch. And that location is 1225 Cleveland Street, and that will be from 1:30 in the afternoon to 3:30. And then from the 16th to the 23rd, 16th and the 23rd, that meeting will be held at DeLucas. And DeLucas Restaurant is located at 1343 Cleveland Street. And again, that PM session starts at 1, and it will end at 3:30 for a 45-minute block. And if you have questions about that, you can still reach out to me, again, howard.smith@myclearwater.com, or give me a call, 727-562-4044. But the booking and the registration times will go live at the downtownclearwater.com website on Friday, as well as we will be emailing out to all of our stakeholders, sending emails to let them know to be able to book time via Calendly for a 45-minute session to be able to meet with the new CRA director. And those are the updates I have for the CRA.
Would you like to introduce the new director?
And with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Jay Matthews, our new CRA director.
Thanks.
Good evening, Jay Matthews, CRA Director. Just want to say I'm happy to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity, of course, for our board. I want to acknowledge the two CRA board members, although this is a DDB meeting. Need to do that. And just looking forward to the great things that downtown has to offer. Excited about the park, excited about the bluffs, and just bringing, I guess, opportunity, downtown is what I see. I'm so excited about our new CRA coming on board, but for the sake of this meeting, happy to be here. Open door policy, contact me whenever you like. I'm located on the 6th floor with everybody else. And please come out and have those conversations on the 4th, just the 4th, all 4 Thursdays in February. Any questions?
Glad you're here, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and congratulations in your newly elected roles.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay.
Offices, I should say.
Yes. We're glad to have you. Next item is the chairman's report. I'll keep it simple due to the time. Go to the downtownclearwater.com and you're going to see all kinds of great events coming up. 4 of them sponsored by this group here, the Market Marie Hard to Guard Sports Festival. If you like hoops and basketball, better come out for that. Food Truck Thursdays and Pirates on Parade, all in this month, I believe. So lots of things happening, and with that, we'll go around and do board members to be heard, starting on my left.
I have a quick anecdote to share. Early morning, January the 1st, jumped in my car because we decided to expand what we're having for breakfast to more items to go to store, and I see a whole bunch of police cars all around town. And right after it, I got pulled over. But there's a point I'm trying to make. When he walked up to me, he said, "It's very foggy today." I don't know if you guys remember.
That's right.
It was a very foggy day. And I noticed your lights are not on. I suggest you turn them on because it's safer. And Happy New Year. And that was it. That's a sign of a friendly town versus pulling you over, give you a ticket because of whatever. And I like it that the city has a correct footing on the first day of the new year as a plus. Is literally, if the police have pulled people over and tell them, "I noticed you're driving very well. You used your blinkers when you changed lane," versus you get the idea, and you basically get more of that. What you basically put attention on, you get more of. So I thought it was wonderful, and he just, I told him I've never seen you in downtown. He goes, "Yeah, because I work further south of the town." Very, very, actually, I was very happy to get pulled over.
But your first thought was?
First thought was, oh my God, what did I do?
The tax is going to be expensive.
On January 1st.
That's
right.
So,
Thank you. Kiara, anything you'd like to say? Or welcome to the board.
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
You're
I'm very
welcome.
happy for this opportunity.
We're glad to have you. Mr. Casano?
You know, on what Shahab said, I have this little shell by the new Walgreens. I finally got my building permit, yay, so we're going to start working on it. But the police wanted to do a training there, you know, whatever, you know, going in and handling things and everything. So, yeah, okay, go ahead, you can use the shell. About 15 squad cars show up at that shell. It was just funny. And it, again, shows that we have the right police force, we have the right city, and just proud to be a citizen here.
Did you volunteer to be a perp?
No, but you know, there was a perp there.
Oh, great.
A homeless guy upstairs,
Okay,
so.
It worked out for everybody.
Whatever, it was fun, and they enjoyed it, but it was like all these squad cars, it was funny, you know. I'd like to welcome Dr. Jay Matthews to our We Need You, and whatever you can get a need from me, I have an open door too, and I'm across the street from you. And again, Howard and the crew, wow, you know, you guys are just so good for downtown. I just have good future looks for what's happening because of the kind of people and all of y'all that are here. And thank you so much.
I'll just reiterate that. Thank you very much. It was wonderful meeting with you all and everyone, you know, who obviously works behind the scenes, but it was wonderful to meet to go through these issues. So thank you all for that. And welcome to our new blood. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you.
as always, thank you to the CRA staff, our attorney, and welcome Dr. Jay Matthews. And let's make this year a better one than last year. And Happy New Year to everyone.
So before I address 2023 and how excited I am, I do want to do a little review of 2022, especially in December. I was very pleased to see the quality and quantity of events, definitely improvement. And of course, this is all because of our staff, very well planned, well attended. So looking at 2023, I welcome you, Dr. J. I'm very excited about some of the conversations we had and where you look, where we're going. One of the things that I am very grateful for is Ms. Jamo's suggestion and focus on increasing the diversity of our events, to be including all our different communities. And I've seen, especially in the last 2 months, how they come out and have welcomed it. So I'm very excited about 2023. And that's it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the chairman, who did a great job tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome to our newest member. And I'm really looking forward to this new era of Dr. J. Matthews leading us forward.
Yes.
And with that, thank you. At 7:32, the meeting is hereby adjourned.